What is going on YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. And in today's video, I'm going to be predicting all 15 seeds in the Western Conference for the upcoming 2024 NBA season. So look, if you guys enjoy the video, make sure to like, subscribe, drop a comment down below in terms of what you guys think. Do you agree with my list, disagree? I'm pretty sure everyone's going to disagree, but it is what it is. But look, let's get right into things, okay? So coming in at the 15th seed, I do have the San Antonio Spurs. Like, I'll be honest, okay? Wembanyama, you got Keldon Johnson, you got Devin Vassell, Trey Jones. That's a nice core to build around. You know, they're going to be fun to watch, but they're not going to win many games. So I do have them coming dead last, unfortunately. Look, if I'm being honest, teams are going to be licking their lips when they see the Spurs on the calendar. It is what it is, all right? At number 14, now, I've actually got the Portland Trailblazers coming in at the 14th seed. I'm cheating a little bit here because I'm making this video under the assumption that Damian Lillard is going to be traded to the Miami Heat, and in doing so, I have to assume that the Blazers are going to get Tyler Hero in return. It's the only really notable piece that they can get. Now, they're not going to be that bad, but they're going to be bad. I don't know if that makes sense, but they still got a call with, Tyler Hero, Anthony Simons, Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, Jeremy Grant, Yusuf Nurkic. That's going to be good enough to win you a few games. They're going to be fun to watch at times. They're going to be ugly to watch at times, but yeah, I've got them coming in at 14th. At the 13th seed, I've got the Utah Jazz. Now, this is an interesting team because they were actually the first seed at the start of last season, which was a bit odd. But look, I think Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler, that's a nice-ass front court. But the rest of the roster, it's a bit all over the place, in terms of the roster construction. Their current guard rotation is Colin Sexton, who's more of a two-guard. Jordan Clarkson, also more of a two-guard. You've got THT, who knows what his potential is right now. Some games he looks great, some games he plays like a bum, so who the fuck knows. And you got like Chris Dunn, so it's uninspiring. And they acquired John Collins via trade. Kind of interested to see how that's going to fit. He's probably not going to be a 20 and 10 guy anymore. But yeah, look, I think that because they're very well coached with Will Hardy at the helm, I do see them overtaking both the Spurs and the Trailblazers, but that's probably as far as they're going to get. So I've got the Jazz coming in at the 13th seed. Now, coming in at the 12th seed, I do have the Houston Rockets. So, with the Rockets, let's put this over here. Look, they obviously added Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks in the offseason. Those are the two big acquisitions. Now, they're overpaid, we know that. But they're still good additions to a young Rockets team, who could use a bit of leadership, use some veterans. They also rounded out the roster by adding Jeff Green, Jock Landale. Those guys are going to play pretty key roles on the team as well. So I really like what they have done. I mean, could they have spent that money better that went towards VanVleet and Dylan Brooks? Absolutely. But, I mean, you got some players, now this is their squad. And overall, I think they got a bunch of young talent, between Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun, Jabari Smith Jr., Amen Thompson, Kevin Porter Jr. There's a lot of potential there. And it's going to be interesting to see how they all kind of fit. But I think perhaps the most under-the-radar move that they made in the offseason was actually their head coach acquisition of Ime Udoka. I think he's exactly what a young Rockets team needs. He's going to establish a culture, a grit and grind type of culture, make them own in on things defensively. I think him and Dylan Brooks are going to pair up pretty well in terms of getting guys like Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green disciplined, right? So overall, I do think the Houston Rockets, they're going to be a fun team to watch next season. So, and they're actually not that bad on paper, so who knows? But they're not good enough to also sneak into a play-in seed, so I've got them at number 12. Now, coming in at number 11, I have got the Oklahoma City Thunder. So, with OKC, they're obviously a stacked young team, and they've got a great young head coach as well in Dagno. Fuck, I don't know how to say it. But, you look at their lineup. They're starting Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Josh Giddey, Lou Dort, J-Dub, and they're getting Chet Holmgren back as well. That's a nasty starting five. And, off the bench, they still got, the other J-Dub, Jalen Williams, you've got Isaiah Joe, that guy can flat out shoot. Kenrick Williams, pretty underrated. You got Trey Mann, Aaron Wiggins. These are honestly all very, very good pieces. And, OKC has all the makings of a very young team, which can possibly sneak into the play-in tournament. Obviously, they made the play-in tournament last season, and they're adding they're only getting better as they get more experience. They're adding Chet Holmgren, so I wouldn't be surprised if they made it at, this season as well. And anything is possible in the NBA. All it takes is, one or two injuries, and that's it. OKC can sneak in, right? But right now, assuming most players are healthy across the entire season, I just don't think they're talented enough to overtake any of the top 10. I wish they were, because they would be really fun to watch in the play-in. But Right now, I have them on the outside looking in, but only just because, like I said, one or two little slight changes and anything can happen. So I've got OKC at number 11. Now onto the play-in spots. Number 10, I've got the New Orleans Pelicans. Now the Pels were also the number 1 seed, early on last season when Zion was fully healthy. But for me, there's no reason to believe that Zion's going to suit up for, 60, 70 games in a season. He's more likely to play 20 games than he is 60 games. And because the Pels, they look like a very average 500 team without Zion, I just with the fact that you can't rely on this guy to be healthy, I just can't see them getting like a 7, 6, 5 seed, even though they're more than capable of it. If I'm wrong, then great. The Pels, they got a lot of talent as well, outside of Zion. Obviously, got Ingram, CJ, Jonas Valanciunas, Trey Murphy's nice, Herb Jones, you got Alvarado, Dyson Daniels. Like a lot of really promising players, but ultimately the Pels go as far as Zion takes them. I'm not relying on him to be 100% healthy, so I do have him at number 10. And like I said, if Zion misses a few more games, OKC can creep in, right? But yeah, Pels at number 10 is what I've got. At number 9, I'll be honest, I feel like a complete dickhead putting these guys this low. But I've got the Sacramento Kings at number 9. So that's a bit interesting. Look, I just don't think that when everyone's fully healthy, which is a big if, obviously, I just don't see them being better than any of the 8 teams I have ranked ahead of them. Now, yes, they had a great season last season, finished, what was it, the 2nd or 3rd seed? I think it was the 3rd seed. But in order to build upon that, they got a ton of momentum, but you also have to continuously improve your roster. And I look at what the rest of the teams in the West have done. Most teams have gotten stronger. And you look at what the Kings have done, in the offseason, they've kept Harrison Barnes, that's okay. They've kept Alex Len, Trey Lyles, that's all right. They added the EuroLeague MVP Sasha Vezenkov. Don't know if I'm saying that right. Apologies to you, Sasha, if I'm saying that wrong. But look, he still might be a great contributor off the bench, especially at that 3 to 4 spot, backing up Harrison Barnes and Keegan Murray. But besides that, what else did they do? They added Chris Duarte, who's had a pretty shocker of a year. Nerlens Noel, who's just jumping, between team to team. And yeah, as much as I'd love to see the Kings replicate their success, unless Keegan Murray, takes a huge leap forward, I just don't see that happening with how strong the rest of the West has gotten. So I've got the Kings at number 9. I already know there's going to be a shit ton of people, shitting on me like, oh, fuck you, sleeping on the Kings. Like, hey, man, it's my opinion. If I can definitely see them getting better, and overtaking a lot of these teams, especially with an injury or two, or if some other teams just don't pan out. But, it is a prediction video, I don't think anyone's going to get them right. So I've got them at number 9 right now. Look, at number 8, this one might be a bit of a hot take as well. I've got the Memphis Grizzlies falling to the number 8 seed. Now, I think Marcus Smart, firstly, he's definitely going to hold things down, hold down the fort when Ja Morant's serving his 25-game suspension to start the season. I think Marcus Smart, is a very underrated passer, and as long as he's playing like a playmaker and not jacking up unnecessary threes, he's a damn good point guard. But the issue is, he might be asked to play a lot more, to score more than is within his means, I suppose, right? I do think that the Grizzlies are going to own in defensively and, kind of lock things up from day one, because that's how they're going to win their games. But ultimately, their offense in those first 25 games without Ja Morant, it's going to be a little bit shaky, Your 3 best offensive players are Desmond Bane, who's pretty underrated, Jaren Jackson Jr., and dare I say, Luke Kennard, okay? Now, that's not a recipe for success in the Western Conference when you got all these stars and everything. But, ultimately, I do want to see the Grizzlies add another, 1 or 2 additional role players, I suppose, to their team. Because outside of, on their bench, outside of Luke Kennard, it's looking pretty thin. Unless you're relying on John Conchar, David Roddy, Zaire Williams, or the show of D Rose to suddenly step up and play, be meaningful contributors next season. I just see them kind of struggling a bit to start those first 25 games. Maybe hover around that 500 mark, maybe a few games over, a few games under. But yeah, I've got them at number 8. At number 7, I've got the Los Angeles Clippers. So this is a tough team to rank because honestly, the Clippers, as long as Kawhi and PG are on the roster, they're pretty much a lock for a top 8 seed, right? They definitely have the talent to finish anywhere within the top 4. But like I mentioned, the West has gotten stronger. They obviously have their injury concerns, with Kawhi and PG you really can't expect both guys to simultaneously play 60 plus games in the season. And because of that, I do have them slipping ever so slightly. Now, if James Harden suddenly comes into town and that deal finally happens, and all it takes is let's say Norm Powell, Terrence Mann, and a few picks, then I can definitely see them being a lot higher. But for right now, with the way their roster is constructed and just given their overall history, I suppose, I think somewhere between 6 to 8 feels right. So I've got the Clippers coming in at number 7. So at the number 6 seed, I've got the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I look at this Mavericks team, Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, they're not a perfect fit on paper. It doesn't take a genius to kind of see that. Two ball dominant players who, aren't great defenders. But what I do think is that a full offseason and training camp together will undoubtedly make the pair a lot more dangerous. And I do see them, in year 2, playing a lot better together, I suppose, right? Now, you look at the Mavs as a whole this offseason. Obviously, they missed the play-in last season, I believe. Yeah, they missed the play-in. But look, they added Grant Williams, who's probably the perfect role player to pair next to Luka and Kyrie. And they also rounded out the rest of the roster, adding Seth Curry, who's always great value for money, I suppose. Raquan, I forgot how to say his name, Raquan Holmes. He was good a few seasons ago, very underrated. Didn't see as much playing time last season, but, he can step in as a backup big, give him some energy. Hopefully it pans out better than JaVale McGee. They added Dante Exum, gives him a bit of length, I suppose, defensively. And also Derek Jones Jr. offering that same, length as well, right? Pause. Now, throw in some additional growth from guys like, Josh Green and Jaden Hardy, some of their young guys. And the Mavs, they look like a lock for a mid to low playoff seed. So I do have them, creeping up to that number 6 spot. I can see that happening. Now, this is where it gets a little juicy and controversial because at the number 5 spot, I have the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is my sleeper team in the Western Conference. A lot of people aren't going to agree. I was very tempted to put them at number 4 even. But for right now, I'm going to put them at number 5. Now, I don't have the stat in front of me, but I did read somewhere that when the Wolves had a very healthy starting 5, which wasn't very often, so Conley, Ant Edwards, Jaden McDaniels, Cat, and Rudy Gobert, they had a very good record. And overall, they went 5-3 when Towns and Conley played together. So take that for what it is. Now, Rudy Gobert, he's not the perfect fit next to Karl Anthony Towns. Everyone can kind of see that. But again, you can only go onwards and upwards from here, especially with the full offseason playing together. Karl Anthony Towns only played like 29 games last season, so they really didn't have that time to kind of gel together. Now, you've got Cat, who's one of the most dynamic offensive centers in the league. Like, yes, he cops his fair share of shit. His voice always changes. He's soft, all that, but he's still very talented offensively. You got Jaden McDaniels, one of the best perimeter defenders in the entire league. Has the case for being the absolute best wing defender, in my opinion. And then the Wolves, they also went out, bolstered the rest of their bench, added Shake Milton from the 76ers, which is a very, very underrated addition. Also got Troy Brown Jr., nice little 3-and-D wing. And that's on a bench which already has Naz Reid, probably the best backup big in the entire league. Carl Anderson, who's one of the most versatile players in the league as well. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker. So this is a very loaded team that you're getting with the Timberwolves. And now, finally, they're going to be led by Anthony Edwards, who's noticeably improved every single season. He's got that dog in him, got that killer mentality, wants to be like MJ. I think as long as they're healthy, these guys are a lock for a top 4 to 5 seed, in my opinion. And I think they're going to surprise a lot of people because, I just see them playing very well. Anthony Edwards is one of those guys that, he could average 30 points per game next season. Wouldn't surprise me whatsoever because this guy is very determined to win. So I do have the Wolves coming in at that number 5 seed. Now, at number 4, just passing the Wolves, I did have them at number 5 originally. I have the Golden State Warriors. Now, this starting 5, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, Kevon Looney, they're a staple. They had a plus 21.9 rating in only 27 games played together last season. And as long as those 5 are available to play, the Warriors are right up there with the best in the West. Obviously, last season, Andrew Wiggins was dealing with a ton of personal shit, so he wasn't playing that much. But, you got to assume he's healthy now. Look, the Warriors, in terms of their bench, they swapped out Jordan Poole and Dante DiVincenzo, both pretty big losses for CP3. And I do think DiVincenzo is actually the more under the radar loss for the Warriors. Obviously, with Jordan Poole, with all that shit going on between him and Draymond, him being out of that locker room will probably do the team more good than harm. But DiVincenzo was a plug-and-play guy that could kind of fit anywhere. But look, they got CP3 running the second unit now. That is just unfair. because he's definitely going to bring out the best out of the rest of the guys off the bench, whether it's Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, Dario Saric, Gary Payton II, sorry. He's going to elevate that bench by a shit ton. Like, you can put me in there and you in there, and that bench is going to be pretty damn good. So, overall, with the Warriors, I do want to see some growth out of Kuminga and Moody. I do want to see them get, more solid playing time, I suppose. And I do think that the Warriors are going to need these guys, to improve and take that next step forward if they're going to be true title contenders. Because the biggest concern I have with them is their aging roster. You've got CP3, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. They're all going to be 34 years or older next season. So they're not getting younger anytime soon. So if those younger guys can kind of step in and take a bigger responsibility and alleviate some of that pressure from the older guys, then they're in pretty good shape. Now, at the number 3 seed, I've got the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, they were a top 2 team in the Western Conference last season, obviously because they made the conference finals, and I expect that to fully remain this upcoming season. But for the regular season, right, because LeBron's aging, because AD's always had a history of injuries and durability concerns, the Lakers, the right thing to do would be to closely manage their minutes, which will ultimately result in them losing a few more games than they should be. Right? I look at this Lakers roster. They're by far, in my opinion, the deepest team in the league. You look at that surrounding cast that's supporting LeBron and AD. They're going to be starting Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell, and Jared Vanderbilt next to them. Off the bench, you've got Gabe Vincent coming in for $11 million a year. Excellent signing. You still got Rui Hachimura, freshly re-signed. You've got Taurean Prince, 3-and-D wing. You've got Max Christie, who I'd love to see have a bigger role next season, also as a 3-and-D wing. And you got Jackson Hayes, who's is alright, but they're fucking stacked otherwise. I would like to see them add another bigger body, whether it's even Tristan Thompson, honestly, because Jackson Hayes, I don't know if I'd rely on him that much. Now, the biggest X factor for me for the Lakers ultimately just comes down to LeBron's foot. Now, he didn't get any surgery on that, so it all kind of depends on which LeBron we see, because if it is the LeBron that we saw in the playoffs, who was notably, a step slower, he just didn't look that great. The Lakers may be in a bit of trouble. But if it's the same LeBron that we saw pre-foot injury, which a lot of people have seemed to have forgotten, he was still playing like a fucking top 5, top 10 player in the regular season pre-foot injury, then the Lakers, they're as good as anyone in the West. I have them right up there, as the Western Conference favorites, I suppose. So I've got the Lakers at number 3. Now, at the number 2 seed, I've got the Denver Nuggets. Now, a 2nd seed finish is no disrespect to the defending champs whatsoever. I just don't think that they're going to care as much about the regular season, and they're going to work towards, they'll win their games and all that, but they're going to cruise through the regular season and kind of just lock in for the playoffs, right? Now, with that said, it's tough because the Nuggets, they lost Bruce Brown. They obviously, they didn't really have many key additions. They also lost Jeff Green as well. So they're really banking on the fact that, Christian Brown's going to grow probably into that Bruce Brown type role. You've got Zeke Naji, Peyton Watson. They've got a lot of potential and a lot of promise. So, with an increased role and responsibilities and things like that, you can only expect them to get better. And Reggie Jackson, he was one of their key acquisitions last season, and he didn't pan out. But I think Reggie Jackson is too good of a player to be just sitting at the end of the bench, and not doing anything. So I think a full offseason and training camp will benefit him a lot as well in terms of, working cohesively with the team. And the Denver Nuggets, look, I think they're just a tier above the Lakers. So I do have them at number 2. Now, at number 1, I've got the Phoenix Suns, which I think will also cop a lot of shit depending on what you think about this Suns team. Now, the reason why I've got them at number 1, okay? Look, firstly, do I think they're the best team in the Western Conference, and do I think that they're going to make the Western Conference Finals? Definitely not. I think the Lakers and the Nuggets are both better teams than the Phoenix Suns. But I do think that these guys are built for the regular season when it comes to just racking up wins based off of, their sheer star power and talent, because they've got a fucking big 3 of 3 of the best scorers in the game right now. And they've got a sneaky good bench as well. But ironically enough, I think right now they're actually a Chris Paul CP3 type of player away from being a true championship contending team, just because they need someone to facilitate that offense in, close fourth quarter situations, especially in the playoffs when defenses, slow down, defense is set, all that kind of stuff. But in the regular season where teams don't give a shit as much, defensively, I think they're just going to be fine because you got KD and Book, and Beal carving it out. They're going to those guys are each going to single-handedly win the Suns a number of games. And, regular season-wise, the Suns are still undefeated since acquiring KD. They're actually 8-0 with KD in the regular season. So I do have the Suns getting that top seed in the Western Conference. But no, I don't think they're the best team in the West, though. Now, overall, that's my predictions. Look, I'll be honest. I think anywhere from 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and even 11 is awfully, awfully close. You could honestly roll a dice and shuffle those teams in any order, and I think you can make a very valid argument for each of them. So don't be attacking me in the comments section below. I think the top 5 are pretty safe, but yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments section down below. I want to thank everyone for watching this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.